Okay, so we have a cracker of a topic and I'm looking forward to getting started, Suman. Maybe we should just get started and get rolling and people will come in gradually. Works? Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was saying, shall we get started? It's a cracker of a topic today.
Yeah, let's get started. Absolutely. Glad you're saying that. I was a little apprehensive about the topic, but I'm glad you like the topic.
No. I mean, this one is quite ubiquitous, isn't it? It's all over. It's everywhere, and it's a really nice one because even though it's that obvious, there's a lot of nuance I think that we can cover with this topic, right? So, super. So let's get started. Do what is right, not what is easy. And Suman, there's an extension of this which goes do what is right, not what is easy or is popular, right? And I think there's like Martin Luther King. So lots of people ascribe to this one. But
Right,
what
right.
made you choose this topic?
So for me, what happened is I'd come across this point in a book, which was interestingly on trust. The book was called The Trust Edge by David Horsager, and he talks of 8 pillars of trust. And interestingly, they were all starting with C. He talked of clarity, compassion, character, competency, commitment, connection, contribution, and consistency. I like the framework quite a bit. And in the context of character, he mentions this point that leaders with good character tend to do what is right and not what is easy. Now, this was many years back, but this struck a chord with me and has stayed with me ever since. So what happens now is that whenever, I'm getting an update, or let's say I'm reading news or hearing from others about, general incidences and how people often respond to situations, I can clearly identify how we're often taking the easy path and not necessarily the right one, me included.
Absolutely, Suman, and that's what I meant by it is quite ubiquitous, right? You can see it everywhere, and I
Yeah,
like the fact that you brought up character, right? Because
yeah,
takes strength. It takes a different kind of strength to do what is right and not what is easy, right? Because and I'm going to come a little bit from a science and behavior science perspective here, because what happens
hmm,
is we're always trying to conserve resources that are scarce, right? We're conserving brain power using shortcuts. We're conserving energy by doing what's easy, doing what's available quickly, right? and
right.
and therefore it takes a special kind of strength to be aware of that, and a special kind of strength to kind of go the way of more effort, right, Suman?
Hmm,
To
hmm.
think about the difficult path to take, and sometimes the right path could be the more difficult path, although that is a very interesting thought in itself about whether doing what is right should always be easy or is difficult sometimes, right? But
Yeah,
let's come
yeah.
back to how often doing something right versus taking the easy way out, and like I said, every decision, right? So how often do you think that it impacts us? I have a point of view too, but I'm gonna wait to see what you think. But yeah, how often do you think that we run across this easy versus right problem?
I think it's happening very, very frequently. Let me start by taking a typical day. So let's say in my community, I have a carpool. I take turns. I mean, we take turns in the community to go to office. But this morning I miss it. I miss the time and I drive instead, right? I go to office. My office is on the second floor. I'm better off using the stairs. And that's also, by the way, what the doctor advised. But I take the elevator instead. In the afternoon meeting, I have to quickly arrive at a decision and hence take a pretty unilateral call, which is more authoritative. Evening, I come back home and my kids are wanting to play, but something, maybe something physical, some actual game. But I tend to prefer to just relax and let the TV entertain. Now, this is just a typical day, but you see, in all these cases, the other interesting thing is we all have justifications. I always have a solid justification in my head as to why I do what I do. And which goes back to rationalizing everything, right? I missed that morning thing because I was in a hurry, because I was on an important call. I didn't use the stairs because, again, as I was in a bit of a hurry. I had to take that unilateral call because there was no time for debate. I come back and watch TV because I'm tired. Whatever be it, we're tending to rationalize and we end up doing things which are easy, but not necessarily the right thing.
Oh my God, Suman, I cannot agree with you more. I think so many thoughts here, but let me pick out a few, right? It reminds me of that saying that, we all want to watch Ingrid Bergman movies and documentaries, but we end up watching trash on Netflix, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
We all
Yeah,
want to be reading philosophy and non-fiction and, spirituality, but we again end up watching trash on Netflix, right? So,
yeah, yeah,
or reach out for that really quick novel, whatever, right? It's always the easy way out. And like you said, we are master storytellers, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
amazing the kind of rationalizations we can come up with, and it's not wrong in most cases, Suman. Wrong as in and the reason this happens, right, is that we have a set of values and beliefs that we live by, right? We have
yeah,
we
yeah,
have a code that we want to live by. What's right, what's wrong, what should be done, right? But we also have 1,001 priorities in everyday life, right? We have competing priorities that are, like you said, you wanted to take the stairs, but you're running late and there's a meeting that's starting, right? Now, what goal
right.
and what priority becomes more important? The one that, you have to forfeit the right choice, many,
Mm.
many, many times. And it's such an interesting tussle, right, in our lives. And to go back to the question I asked you, it is so much more common than we think. It's absolutely like probably 20 times a day we're struggling with what's right, if not more, with what's right versus what's easy.
Exactly. It's very common.
Absolutely, it is, right? But can you talk about some other? And it's fascinating when you put it that way, right, Suman? The way you took simple everyday life and used examples. Can you talk about some other examples that come to mind? When you're thinking easy versus right, especially in terms of leadership.
Sure, I could do that. In fact, you talked of values, right? So let's go a little deeper at a personal level. So let's start by living our values. Values could be many. Let's take a simple one. Simple one about, let's say, being on time. Right? So the value we're talking about is punctuality. What is the right thing to do is to show up on time. What is the easy thing to do is to blame it on other things, maybe other meetings. Again, are we realizing what we're doing? I think it's a lot about self-awareness. We may not be realizing it. If I'm late, it's because of traffic or my last meeting went over. It's the circumstances you see. But if you're late, you're lazy, which goes to your personality. Uh, so it's an attribution error, right? So are we aware of the attribution error that's causing this? The other deeper one is taking accountability for our actions. You see, a leader's job is to give credit to the team when things work out well and to shoulder the responsibility when it doesn't go right. Now, that's the right thing to do. The easy thing to do is to take the credit and blame others or situations for failures. Often we end up doing that. Let's say things like getting work done, right? The right thing to do is to do what is needed at that point in time, whether we're in the mood or not. What is easy is to leave it for another day. And procrastination is, I think, very common. I am very aware of it now. I love procrastinating things, but I think eventually it doesn't help because it just increases stress. Let's talk of listening, right? Speaking, and this is my favorite example because it goes to empathy. Listening is hard. Speaking is easy, right? Um, because speaking gives us control. Listening requires us to actually let go of control. It's important to listen well. It requires us to understand, the impact it has on others. Empathy, compassion, all those things become important. So yeah, it's not just superficial. I think it's at a very deep level. Again, I just talked of very impersonal things. Uh, it's again boils down to doing the right thing, not necessarily what is easy.
And so many times, right, Suman, the right thing, strikes us. So it's easy, and so bear with me on this one, right? So
Yeah.
there is the cool self. Let's talk about it, and then the hot state, right? The self in the hot state.
Uh-huh.
Right? When somebody is in the cold state, and some people like to call it the more rational state, it's very easy
Uh-huh.
to think about what's right, what's wrong, right? That's where your values and your beliefs take over, and what is the right thing that you want to do, right? And then you are in that situation, you're in the hot state. Let's take let's take an interpersonal example. I want to go there, right? But you're in the middle of an argument, for example, right? Everything is riled up, everything is exacerbated, exaggerated, all of it. And at that point in time, the values, the beliefs go flying out the window, right? It kind of becomes the way you respond, you react, you don't respond. So many of the things that we've spoken about before also, right, Suman? Doing the right thing is something that's very easy at either in hindsight or when you think about it in a cool collected state, much harder when it's hot state. But I would like to know what you think about interpersonal relationships and how this right thing versus the easy thing plays out there.
So let's start with what you call a cold state, right? Because even there, we often end up doing things which is easy. So again, as a leader, I think one of our top jobs is to coach our people, and that's what research is also telling us, and that's what the creative economy is all about. What is right is to coach our people, to guide our people, to motivate, to inspire, to challenge, to push, to ask. What is easy is to tell people what to do. Is being authoritative, tell them what to do. Again, very industrial way of thinking. Easy to make the change? I don't think so. I think we often struggle with this. The other simple thing could be just showing gratitude, right? So let's say you've done something. What is the right thing to do is for me to show appreciation, show gratitude. It could be something as simple as saying a simple thank you. What is easy is to avoid that, find mistakes and faults. And again, it may be an awareness issue because we are wired for negativity. Let's say I say something to you in our one-on-one which makes you feel bad. Makes you feel disrespected. Now, fortunately, I've understood it. I've kind of regretted it. Maybe I realize I shouldn't have said it. But the right thing to do is to apologize, keeping my ego in check. But it's hard because it requires a certain humility, a certain level of vulnerability. Easy is to behave as if nothing has happened, and that time will take care of it. But often time does not take care of it. That I think people will never forget how you made them feel, right? Maya Angelou had told us this long time back. So even in normal, what you call cold situations, it's there. If it's hot situation, it just compounds the problem. When I'm angry, what is important, what is right is to manage our emotions. I need to manage my emotions. But what is easy is to lash out, right? And sometimes we rationalize it. We think, the person needs to be taught a lesson, put in his place. That's when the anger is talking. And I think the most important one, I feel, is, and that's what differentiates a good leader from a not a good leader, is to be assertive. Someone said something which I did not like. Let's say the right thing to do is to have that tough conversation, not aggressive but assertive, to make that point very clear, right? That what happened is not acceptable, and how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Is it easy? Not at all. But often we take the easy way out. What do? We avoid. We run away from a difficult conversation. And because the person said something, I become resentful. And over time, those relationships get eroded, right? They get lost. And there are innumerable cases of these things happening. But if you have to maintain those relationships, there will be conflict in any situation. The point is, do I have the ability and the courage to have those tough conversations? And I think that's where doing what is right becomes more important, not take the easy way out.
That makes total sense, right? Suman, so many thoughts in what you just said, especially when it comes to, interpersonal relationships and so on and so forth, right? But
yeah,
you said, no, it's very, very difficult. And the brain being able to rationalize everything and think about different alternatives for almost everything, right? Sometimes it's even easy to convince ourselves that what is right is not right and what is not right is right. We have that superpower, let's call it, to say that, and so I'll tell you an example, right? As a leader, let's say there's a difficult situation, there is an employee who's probably been abused, or had a person pass away or something, right? And a lot of the time, in order to avoid that uncomfortable conversation, like you said, right, we could say that maybe this person needs their time and space, and this is not the time to talk to them, right? A lot of the time, this is a way to make ourselves just avoid something that we don't want to do, right? Suman, it might be a bad example, but this is the first one that popped into my head, right? Now, how do you know what is the right thing to do at that time? And maybe you are wrong about what you think is the right thing to do, but how does one know? Is it like a moral compass that you're referring to? Or, how do you know?
Good question. So, because we are always rationalizing it, one can also rationalize saying, "Hey, this is the right thing to do," not necessarily what you think is the right thing to do. The first example that you cited, Divya, uh, and research has shown that this is very common. Uh, Something has happened to the person, you want to have that conversation, but it's a little uncomfortable, so you avoid it, right? And you think it's not the right time. So anything which is to do with feedback falls in this category. So typically we don't like to give feedback because neither is it comfortable for the person receiving it, nor is it comfortable for the person giving it. But at the same time, giving that feedback at the right time is very important for that person's growth. And we often don't do that. I think, if you ask my opinion, I think, we often know what is right. Yeah. Even though we might argue about it. All it requires is to, look at ourselves in the mirror. I think what we are talking about is a little bit of morality here. And there are some questions which can help guide us, right? So let's say there's a call which you're taking at office. And I had just read about this long time back, and I still remember. And I thought those were nice guiding principles. It said that if what you do is all over the papers tomorrow, would you be okay with that? I think that's a great question. What would your mother say? Or what would even your children have to say about what you've done, right? Is it something that you're trying to defend or hide? If it is, then chances are you probably are better off not doing that. That's not the right thing. And I'm only bringing the mother and children. I'm not even going as far as asking the wife, right? Because you might get a much more deeper response. I think a person with integrity behaves ethically and does the right thing even behind closed doors. And I think that's kind of the definition of integrity. And for whatever reason, if you're not sure, ask. Nothing prevents us from asking. Let's say I said something which you felt bad about. I can always ask. First of all, you will need the courage to speak up to me saying, Suman, I felt bad because this is what happened. You're being assertive. And then I can ask around saying, hey, I behaved like this. What do you think I should do? And then listen, because people will tell us. But once I listen, I think I'll need to have the vulnerability to ask. I should have the courage to receive the feedback, humility to accept it, and of course, the determination to execute it. And those are difficult, those are not easy. So I don't think the issue is really about knowing what is right, because we can always ask if you're not sure. But do we really have the courage and the conviction to kind of change our ways and do what is right? Right? Either at a deeper level or at an interpersonal level, but even at smaller levels, like we started off saying, your simple, a normal day at work, all those little things, this little decisions that you're taking. For every decision, I think it's a great awareness question. We just need to ask ourselves, hey, is this the right thing to do? And if you can start moving in that direction, I think it would be a real great game changer.
Absolutely, Suman. So many great points there. Before I go, and I do have a few other points, Rajshekhar, thanks for joining. Majid, we're talking about, how hard it is sometimes to do what's right. And, when the easy path is right there up in front of you for the taking, right? And Suman shared a lot of examples, from personal life, from everyday decisions, to kind of figure out where we can stop and ask ourselves whether what we're doing is the right thing to do or the easy thing to do. What are your thoughts, Rajshekhar, Majid? Do you have any thoughts, questions, anything?
Yes, I'd like to quickly add a point. I was very keenly listening to Mr. Suman, so he had very wonderful thoughts to share with us. So my
Thank you.
slogan, or rather the tagline for this the room, the circle you created, is the walk the talk. Sometimes we expect people to behave with us in a way we really expect them to do, right? And but we don't do the same thing when they expect certain things from us. So this is something very much related to the topic you have chosen here, that do what is right, not what's easy. So we try to, the human tendency is we try to go for the easier things, right? Not
Right.
doing what's right. But so we have to
Correct.
walk the talk actually. So we talk so much, we talk about empathy, we talk about sympathy, but when it is the real time, when people require us to actually listen to them, to be empathetic, so we don't walk the talk. So yes, I believe walk the talk has to be the slogan. Thank you.
Very good. I think it's great you brought that point, walk the talk. And I think I can immediately kind of uh, relate to that, especially in the context of parenting, right? Because children will not do what you tell them to do. Children will do what they see you doing.
Exactly.
And I think it's the same thing,
Right.
right? And that's why we need to do what is right, not what is easy.
No, hi everyone.
Hi,
Yeah,
Rachik.
Hi.
yeah. According to me, the some people like I see that in environment. Okay, even know the people know the right things, but they are not doing right things. Okay, like in
Right.
political people, they are doing corruption. Okay, they know
Yeah.
this is not a right things, but still they are doing corruption. Okay,
Yeah.
that is the
Yeah.
way. But even though we thought like not only the politician, everywhere in every industry, everything no, okay, but still out of 100 people, only 10-20 people they are going to right way, they are doing right things. But 80% people still they are falling under in false like wrong things only. What is the reason? Anything know about reason, Suman?
Uh, that's a tough question.
The
So,
last.
in my workshops, I keep saying, I talk a lot about leadership. And one thing I keep on harping is that who said leadership is easy, right? Uh, it's not easy. And the other thing about leadership is, we often think of the leader as the person sitting on top. It's not the case. Leadership is action. It's not a position. And the one thing that research has shown is that leadership is in short supply throughout the world. You talked of politics, and it doesn't matter whether it's politics in our country, politics all over the world, in corporates, in any field you take, uh, leadership is in short supply. And that explains why often we end up doing what is easy, what is right. Uh, Now, why is the percentage so low? You know, again, it's debatable whether it's 20%, 30%. It's very contextual. It's very situational. But yeah, I think I agree with you that, there's a lot that each one of us can do in terms of changing ourselves and changing our relationships and our environments by starting to actually at least be aware uh, of doing what is right, not just what is easy.
And to just add to your point, Suman Rajekar, I think Suman also talked about how easy it is for us to rationalize away some of the bad choices we make, right? And
Yeah,
whether it's politicians, whether it's us making the not healthy choice or the not correct choice, right? We explain it away ourselves, right? So it's just, I think that is one of the other qualities that human beings have, is to rationalize away some of these bad decisions, right? So that we can continue to live with ourselves and the self-image that we have. So a very, very interesting question, I think. But
correct.
Suman, I
And
want
there is a trade-off,
yeah.
and there could be a trade-off between short-term and long-term also. Sometimes, these give you short-term benefits, but you lose out on the long-term.
And I do want to end on that note that Baldev had asked, right, Suman, that if it's because our conflicting goals that we have, that sometimes the right choice is the hard choice. But let's chew on that for a while. Any parting thoughts, Suman? Thank you for this wonderful circle today. I think it was